I could to sort of hesitate and stammer and do anything in my power to sort of not say yes, because I had speeches to grade. I don't particularly like to fly, especially not to Atlanta, especially not after what United had just done to somebody. And I really like my routine. Mondays and Tuesday nights I teach, Wednesday through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, however days it may take. I do the grading of the speeches and I get ready for the next week. It sounds boring as hell, doesn't it? But I like that routine. I'm sort of settled into it. I can do it out of my house and things like that, which is really sort of pleasant because my wife works downstairs. As he called me literally 2 days before we were supposed to go. I'm doing everything I possibly can to stop from saying no, because that's my first reaction. Because I realized, though, that here was a chance to be with my son, alone. No other family members, no kids, no dogs, no other distractions, just he and myself having a chance to bond together over a great golf tournament. And so I did ultimately, because instinctively, because of my solar plexus chakra, I heard it and it said, yes, go. And so I did go, and it was great. So my new learning about saying yes is two points. One is that listen to invitations carefully. There's more to it than just the event. There is going to be people there. There are going to be other things going on. There'll be occasions for all sorts of opportunities. So it's more than just a meal. It's more than just a listening to music together. It's more than a golf tournament. So be mindful of the other things that could accrue from accepting an invitation. And the second learning recently from this is that perhaps even more important is that saying yes is like flexing a muscle. If we don't flex the muscle, it's not going to get strong. It's going to atrophy. It's going to weaken. And as a result, it's going to be more easy for the automatic no to come out and prevent us from the things that we can possibly gain out of the experience. So those are my two takeaways. My son's invitation got me to come out of my comfort zone, and I'm really glad that I did. So that's the master's experience. I can take that off for a minute here. And let me just tell you a little bit about two no's. So it's important to say yes for a lot of reasons, but it's also important on occasion to say no. And let me give you two examples of saying no that were important to me, that I learned from. Back in the 1970s, I was an account executive in Benton & Bowles advertising agency. And the client I was on at the time was Hasbro Toys. Hasbro was a relatively small toy company at the time. Now it's probably about the biggest in the world through all their acquisitions. But my job, basically, at this particular point in time, was to help the client at what is called Toy Fair. It's the biggest event of the year for the toy industry. It occurs in February in New York City. That's what is called the Toy Center. And my job as the account executive is to be down there, assist the client. It's making sure that the booths that demonstrate the product, the toys, are manned or womaned, depending on what the case may be. Making sure the product prototypes are working. Making sure that the commercials that promote those products are working and are being shown appropriately. And basically, just keeping the client happy. That's what account executives do, regardless of what you may have seen on Mad Men, okay? So that's what I was doing. We were at the office, Benton & Bowles office, before we went down to Toy Fair for the night. And I happened to call my wife. Well, I wanted to call my wife. I could give her a call. And she said she was worried about our 18-month-old daughter, Heather, who had a cold, but seemed to be getting worse. And I sympathized with my wife as much as I could. I said I would be home as soon as I could. We lived about an hour away by train from New York City in the suburbs, and so I just said I'd be there as soon as I could, but I have to go down. And so I got in the cab and went on down to the Toy Fair. Later that evening when I got home, this is pre-cell phone days, okay, I got home to an empty house, and what I found was a note on the kitchen table, and it said that I've taken Heather to the hospital, and Todd, our son, who's 5 months old, is with my parents, as is the dog. So I got in the car right away, drove down to the hospital, and I found my wife, Holly, sitting beside a bed with Heather inside a little oxygen tent. And I realized at that moment, seeing my child like that boy, nothing is more important than the family. Not the toy fair, not the client, not the job, but the family. And so the takeaway there basically is you got to be able to say no sometimes. You've got to be able to turn off the people-pleasing mode and be able to put family first. So that's my first no for you, first occasion for saying no. The second happened a couple of years later. Okay, I left Benton & Bowles. I left to go find a job that would have more meaning to me, more purpose, give more purpose to my life, to do good. I looked for about 6 months for an opportunity. I found several that would pay me $3,000 or $4,000 a year, for example, teaching in a prep school somewhere. But that wasn't going to let me live in Westchester County with my wife and 2 kids at the style that we had grown accustomed to. So when the money started running out pretty rapidly at the end of 6 months, I ran back into advertising, and I went to work for Ted Bates, another big advertising firm in the city. And it was okay for a while. I got promoted. I was, doing fairly well there. Seemed to be enjoying it pretty much. I was selected to be on the pitch team for the Coors beer account. This is the time when Coors is going from a regional brand nationally, so it's a huge move for both the advertising agency and the client. And I was selected to be on that, and we won it. We got the advertising contract to take Coors national. And I really liked the Coors client at first. They were really terrific people. They'd been there for a while. They were very laid back. They were very respectful. They were fun to be with. I mean, they live in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, and they get free beer. What's not to like about the job, right? But as Coors went national, what happened was this: they had to expand. And who did they expand with? They expanded with so-called marketing experts from the East. And this began to change the environment pretty dramatically. So as these new people came in and replaced the old, more laid-back folks, it became a little bit more difficult for me. And so I was having trouble with the client was having some trouble with me. Finally, after about a year or so of working together, maybe a year and a half, maybe a year and a half perhaps, the client went to his boss, who went to my boss, who said, you got to get him off of the business. And so what happened to me was I was called into my boss's office on a Friday night in the middle of winter, and without any warning, I was fired. And I still remember, I can still see me going back to Grand Central Station, picking up a phone, again, pre-cell phone days, okay, using a public phone in Grand Central Station, calling my wife, telling her what had happened, and tears are streaming down my face. It hurts to get fired. So, what do you take away from this experience? Oh, before I get there, let me just sort of move something, what happened. All right, so I lost that. I lost that job. I was sort of devastated. I felt, bad about myself. I felt shame. I felt, resentment, anger, you name it, all those feelings that come with loss of a job like that. But within 3 months, I had a much better job. I got hired as Director of Corporate Communications for a large Swiss chemical company. And it was a much better fit for my skills and for my temperament. And I really had a lot of opportunities and took advantage of those opportunities at Ciba-Geigy. So the takeaway for you about saying no in this particular instance is if the job doesn't fit, quit, okay? It's more important that you find someplace that is a good fit. So if my story about going to the Masters was moving out of my comfort zone, then the last 2 stories are really sort of being able to move out of and recognize a discomfort zone and do something about it. The takeaway for you, say yes when opportunities arise. Say yes to challenges, and you'll be surprised and amazed by all the good things that can happen to you. At the same time, be willing and able to stand up and say no to people or to jobs if it's going to be unhealthy for you, if it's going to demand things that you really are not willing to put up, give up. So make the healthier choice. Choose yes when it's right for you, when it's encouraging and giving you opportunities, but say no when it's a possibility of you being squished and being put into a wrong place and maybe and just not in what's right for you. So that's my story. Okay, 1 yes, 2 no's, and a thank you for being so honest and open with me and everybody in the class, and for giving each other the encouragement and learning from each other throughout the semester. It has been a real pleasure, and as I said on numerous occasions, it's been fun, and you can't say that too often about school. So thank you very much.